12 minutes until takeoff, United Flight 847 was about to witness a reckoning. 5 minutes until Dimitri Kozlov would be kicked out of business class. 3 minutes until his true identity would be revealed, and just 45 seconds until flight attendant Rachel would lose her job. At John F. Kennedy Airport's Terminal 4, United Airlines' Newark to London flight was making final preparations. Boeing 777-300ER, 364 seats, 60 premium business class seats, 304 standard economy seats. Average ticket price, $6,500 for business class, $850 for economy. Dimitri Kozlov, 35 years old, Ukrainian war veteran, had lost his left leg below the knee in combat and now used a prosthetic. Walking with his cane, he had a slight limp, but his posture remained straight and dignified. He wore a gray wool coat over business casual shirt and pants. His simple leather messenger bag contained documents proving he was CEO of an $847 million defense contractor company. Kozlov Defense Technologies was one of the Pentagon's largest Ukrainian contractors, specializing in drone technology, cybersecurity, and military communications. Active contracts with NATO worth $1.2 billion, investments in Ukrainian defense industry totaling $890 million. But today, Dimitri was just a passenger traveling to London on a business trip. "Good evening, welcome aboard," said hostess Jennifer at the boarding gate, checking Dimitri's boarding pass. "Business class, seat 2A. Jennifer's eyes drifted to Dimitri's cane, then to his prosthetic leg. A brief expression of discomfort crossed her face. "Sir, are you sure this is your correct seat assignment?" Jennifer asked, rechecking the boarding pass. "Yes, 2A business class," Dimitri replied with his slight Ukrainian accent. Jennifer hesitated. "Okay, please proceed. Flight attendant will assist you." As Dimitri entered the aircraft, he felt the stares of business class passengers. In seat 1A sat Michael Richardson, Goldman Sachs partner, reading the Financial Times. In seat 1B, his wife Patricia checked her makeup in a compact mirror, her Chanel bag beside her. In seat 2B, David Thompson, British Parliament member, worked on his laptop on post-Brexit trade regulations. In seat 3A, Dr. Sarah Williams, Oxford professor, prepared for an academic conference. All were well-dressed, privileged, and subtly uncomfortable with Dimitri's presence. Flight attendant Rachel Morrison, 29 years old, 7 years with United, business class specialist. Hofstra University graduate with a hospitality management degree, average salary $85,000 plus benefits. Experienced in dealing with business class passengers, but mostly American or European elite. "Sir," Rachel approached Dimitri with a professional smile, but caution in her eyes, "I need to verify your boarding pass and identification." Dimitri handed over his documents. Everything legitimate. Business class ticket, Ukrainian passport, U.S. permanent resident card, disabled veteran ID. Rachel examined the documents, but something seemed off. This passenger profile didn't fit business class's usual demographic. "Mr. Kozlov," Rachel said, returning the documents, "what's the purpose of your travel to London?" "Business meetings," Dimitri answered briefly. "What kind of business?" Rachel's voice was professional but probing. Dimitri hesitated. "Defense consulting." Rachel's eyebrows raised. "Defense consulting? What kind of defense consulting could this disabled veteran have?" Meanwhile, Michael Richardson in seat 1A overheard the conversation. "Defense consulting," he whispered to his wife Patricia, "probably selling war stories to journalists." Patricia giggled softly. "Or maybe he's one of those PTSD cases trying to seem important." Dimitri heard their whispers, but didn't react. In war, he'd heard much harsher things. Rachel was mentally checking off red flags: Eastern European accent, disabled veteran, vague job description, defensive body language. Her training had taught her these were warning signs, potential security risks, or fraudulent passengers. "Sir," Rachel said, "I need to see additional identification. Do you have a U.S. driver's license or employment verification?" "I showed you my passport and resident card," Dimitri replied patiently. "Yes, but For business class travel, we sometimes require additional verification, especially for international passengers. This was complete nonsense. United had no such policy, but Rachel was improvising, trusting her instincts. Dr. Sarah Williams, listening to the conversation, decided to intervene. "Excuse me," she said to Rachel, "but this seems unusual. I've flown business class hundreds of times and never been asked for employment verification." Rachel's face flushed. Having one passenger defend another was unexpected. "Ma'am," Rachel tried to maintain a professional tone, "we have security protocols for all passengers, especially those traveling on business." Michael Richardson joined the conversation. "Actually, I agree with the flight attendant. These days, we need to be careful about who we're sharing cabin space with." Patricia nodded. "Especially on international flights. Security should be the priority." David Thompson looked up from his laptop. "What exactly is the concern here? The gentleman has proper documentation." "The concern," Michael said loudly enough for several passengers to hear, "is that business class has certain standards. We pay premium prices for a premium experience." "What standards?" Dr. Williams asked sharply. "Well," Patricia joined in, "people who belong in business class. People who can afford it legitimately, not through some charity program or veteran discount scheme." Dimitri's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "I paid full price for my ticket." "Did you?" Michael challenged. "Or did some nonprofit buy it for you as part of a veterans assistance program?" This accusation created uncomfortable tension in the cabin. Some passengers wanted to defend Dimitri but avoided confrontation. Rachel felt emboldened by the Richardson couple's support. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside so we can verify your travel authorization through proper channels." "I'm not leaving my seat," Dimitri said quietly but firmly. "Then I'll need to call the captain," Rachel threatened. At this moment, Dimitri's phone buzzed. "Incoming call, Pentagon Acquisition Office." Dimitri declined the call. "Popular guy," Michael commented sarcastically. "Probably telemarketers." Another buzz. "NATO Joint Defense Procurement." Declined again. "Sir," Rachel said, "please turn off your phone during boarding procedures." "It's on airplane mode," Dimitri explained. "These are work calls." "What kind of work requires calls from international numbers?" Patricia asked suspiciously. Before Dimitri could answer, another passenger boarded. Colonel James Peterson, U.S. Army, in civilian clothes but with unmistakable military bearing. He walked through business class, routinely scanning passengers. His eyes stopped on Dimitri. Recognition flashed across his face. "Kozlov," Colonel Peterson said, approaching. "Dimitri Kozlov?" "Hello, James." Dimitri smiled genuinely for the first time since boarding. "Holy shit, man," Peterson exclaimed, then caught himself. "Sorry, folks." "Dimitri, what are you doing here?" "Business trip to London, NATO procurement meetings." Rachel watched this interaction with growing confusion. Who was this colonel, and how did he know Dimitri? "Ladies and gentlemen," Colonel Peterson announced to business class, "you're sitting next to one of Ukraine's greatest heroes. This man saved my unit in Mariupol." Business class passengers stared. Michael Richardson's smug expression faltered. "Dimitri," Peterson continued, "how's the company? Last I heard, you were revolutionizing drone technology for NATO. Kozlov Defense Technologies is doing well," Dimitri replied modestly. Peterson turned to Rachel. "Miss, this man is a VIP contractor with Pentagon clearance. Whatever issue you're having, I suggest you resolve it quickly." Rachel's confidence cracked. "Colonel, we were just verifying." "Verifying what? His right to fly business class?" Peterson's voice carried military authority. "This man's company probably built half the systems protecting this aircraft." Michael Richardson quietly put away his Financial Times. Patricia stopped looking in Dimitri's direction. Dr. Williams smiled, vindicated. "I think we owe Mr. Kozlov an apology." But Rachel wasn't ready to back down completely. "Colonel, with respect, anyone can claim anything. I need official verification." "Fine," Peterson said, pulling out his phone. "Let me call General Morrison at Joint Chiefs. He's probably wondering why Dimitri missed his call earlier." Dimitri's phone had indeed been ringing from Pentagon numbers. Captain Sarah Mitchell emerged from the cockpit, 27 years flying experience, former Air Force pilot, zero tolerance for disruptions. Her presence immediately commanded attention. "What's the situation here?" Captain Mitchell asked Rachel. "Captain, we have a passenger verification issue," Rachel explained. "This gentleman claims to have business class authorization, but there are questions about what?" Captain Mitchell cut her off. Colonel Peterson stepped forward. "Captain, I'm Colonel James Peterson, U.S. Army. This gentleman is Dimitri Kozlov, CEO of Kozlov Defense Technologies. He's traveling on official NATO business." Captain Mitchell's expression changed immediately. She recognized the company name from defense briefings. "Mr. Kozlov," Captain Mitchell extended her hand. "Welcome aboard." "I apologize for any inconvenience." "Thank you, Captain," Dimitri replied, shaking her hand. Rachel felt the ground shifting beneath her. "Captain, I was following security protocols. What protocols require harassing a premium passenger who provided proper documentation?" Captain Mitchell's voice was sharp. Michael Richardson tried damage control. "We were all concerned about security. In these times, you can't be too careful." "Mr. Richardson," Captain Mitchell read his name from the passenger manifest, "security doesn't mean discrimination. Mr. Kozlov has more security clearance than anyone on this aircraft." Dimitri's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID was visible to nearby passengers. "Secretary of Defense, direct line." "Excuse me," Dimitri said, answering. "Good evening, Mr. Secretary." Business class fell silent. The Secretary of Defense calling directly? "Yes, I'm en route to London for NATO meetings," Dimitri continued. "Tomorrow's procurement review includes the new cybersecurity protocols." Rachel's face went white. NATO meetings, Secretary of Defense. This wasn't some random veteran. "Actually, sir," Dimitri looked at Rachel, "there's been a small delay. United Airlines staff needed additional verification of my travel authorization. Everyone could hear the Secretary's voice through the phone, slightly raised. "Verification? For what? You have Pentagon Alpha clearance." "Yes, sir." The flight attendant was concerned about my qualifications for business class. An uncomfortable laugh from the phone. "Dimitri, you probably paid for half that aircraft through your contracts. Let me speak to the captain." Captain Mitchell took the phone. "This is Captain Mitchell." "Captain, this is Defense Secretary Johnson. Are you seriously questioning the travel authorization of one of our top defense contractors?" "No, sir. There's been a misunderstanding that we're resolving immediately." "Good. Mr. Kozlov is traveling on critical NATO business. Any further delays will be reported through proper channels." Captain Mitchell handed the phone back to Dimitri. Her face was stern as she turned to Rachel. "Rachel," Captain Mitchell said, "my office." "Now." As they moved toward the front galley, Dimitri's phone rang again. This time, he put it on speaker at Colonel Peterson's suggestion. "Dimitri, it's General Morrison. We missed your check-in call." "I'm on the flight, General." "Small delay with airline security procedures." "Security procedures? For you? What airline is this?" "United Airlines Flight 847. "United? They've been trying to get defense contracts for 2 years. Maybe they should focus on customer service first." Business class passengers absorbed every word. Michael Richardson had completely hidden behind his seat. Patricia pretended to sleep. Dr. Williams approached Dimitri. "Mr. Kozlov, I want to apologize for our passengers' behavior. It was inexcusable." "Thank you, Dr. Williams. Unfortunately, this happens more than you'd think." Colonel Peterson was angry. "Dimitri, this is exactly the kind of discrimination that makes veterans reluctant to travel." "It's not about being a veteran, James. It's about assumptions people make based on accents, disabilities, and appearances." Captain Mitchell returned from her conversation with Rachel. Her expression was grim. "Mr. Kozlov," Captain Mitchell announced, "on behalf of United Airlines, I offer our sincerest apologies. This incident does not represent our values or policies." She continued for all passengers to hear. "Rachel Morrison is no longer employed by United Airlines. Discrimination against passengers based on ethnicity, disability, or nationality is grounds for immediate termination. Business class passengers shifted uncomfortably. They realized their own comments had been part of the discrimination. Furthermore, Captain Mitchell added, United Airlines will be implementing new anti-discrimination training for all staff, effective immediately. Dimitri's laptop bag contained documents showing Kozlov Defense Technologies had pending contracts worth $2.3 billion with various U.S. agencies. His company employed 8,400 people across 12 countries, with headquarters in Virginia, London, and Kiev. As the aircraft prepared for takeoff, Michael Richardson approached Dimitri hesitantly. Mr. Kozlov, I owe you an apology. My comments were inappropriate and prejudiced. Mr. Richardson, thank you for acknowledging that, but the apology should go to every veteran, immigrant, and disabled person who faces similar treatment without the resources to fight back. Patricia also approached, tears in her eyes. I'm ashamed of my behavior. How can I make this right? Donate to veteran organizations, support refugee assistance programs, use your privilege to help others instead of excluding them. Dr. Williams had already pulled out her phone. I'm writing about this incident for my next academic paper. Discrimination in elite spaces needs to be documented and addressed. Colonel Peterson was proud of his friend. Dimitri, you handled that with more grace than they deserved. The flight to London was smooth. Dimitri worked on his NATO presentation, occasionally taking calls from Pentagon officials and European defense ministers. Business class passengers now realized they were sitting next to someone whose work literally protected their freedom. Upon landing at Heathrow, Captain Mitchell made a final announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, this flight carried a true American hero today. Mr. Dimitri Kozlov, thank you for your service to both Ukraine and the United States. The entire business class section applauded. Rachel Morrison never worked for a major airline again. Her discriminatory behavior was documented and shared across the industry. United Airlines implemented the Kozlov Protocol, mandatory training to prevent discrimination against veterans, immigrants, and disabled passengers. Most importantly, Dimitri's NATO meeting secured $890 million in funding for Ukrainian defense, helping protect democracy against authoritarian aggression. Sometimes justice happens at 35,000 feet, and sometimes the person you underestimate is the person protecting your freedom.